we have for our whole entire existence been a nonpartisan organization, which means that we do not endorse any candidates, we don't adopt any political party, and we really focus on civic education, on issues that are important to our community. And we do everything that we can to really foster a thriving democracy by engaging all people in the political process through the nonpartisan information sharing. And we do that through our education programs, through our nonpartisan voters guide, and also through speaking and collaborating with organizations like yours.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Houston. This week we sat down with Katie Campbell Shumway, the Executive Director of League of Women Voters of Houston, to talk about the power of informed voting. After the interview, you'll hear from Gabby, one of our AI hosts, for a brief episode recap. This is episode 81 with an original air date of Sunday, March 31st, 2024. And now your host, Blanca Quezada.
Hi, and welcome, everyone. I hope that you all have been having a great year so far. But don't forget, this year should be the most important for all of us because it's when we have the power to elect the people who will help lead our country. Let's have our voices heard by going out to vote. Please promise me that you'll do that, right? Okay, so here to explain why voting makes a difference is Katie Campbell Shumway. She is the executive director for the League of Women Voters of Houston. Hi, Katie, and welcome to Spotlight Houston.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Before we get started into why we should go out and vote, tell us what the League of Women Voters of Houston is and what it does.
Absolutely. So, the League of Women Voters of Houston is actually one of the very first leagues countrywide that started. And we started over 100 years ago, right when the
Um,
19th Amendment was ratified in 1920. So, we're 104 years old. We'll celebrate a birthday this August. And our mission,
Congratulations.
thank you. We are very happy that our Houston founders were really so invigorated and such a big piece of passing the women's right to vote. And through that, we have for our whole entire existence been a nonpartisan organization, which means that we do not endorse any candidates, we don't adopt any political party, and we really focus on civic education, on issues that are important to our community. And we do everything that we can to really foster a thriving democracy by engaging all people in the political process through the nonpartisan information sharing. And we do that through our education programs, through our nonpartisan voters guide, and also through speaking and collaborating with organizations like yours.
Yeah, it's 104 years. That's a long time. And it's nationwide now. It's not just here in Houston, right?
Yep. Our organization is essentially three tiers. So we have our National League, which operates out of DC, and they do a lot of work around advocacy rights, around legislation, and they do a lot of work at the Capitol. And then every state has a state chapter, a state league, and they do the exact same thing in your state legislature. So we're really busy at League of Women Voters Texas during the legislative session, during all the special sessions. And there's a lot of work that our team does around redistricting and some other causes as well. And then at the local level in all your different counties and cities, you have your local league. And we really focus on boots on the ground effort from voter registration to voter activation and making sure that everybody has the tools that they need to feel confident to cast their ballot every election.
So you work year round, basically.
Oh, yeah. There seems like there's always an election. And even when we're not in an active voting time, we're really doing the most that we can to listen to our neighbors and figure out ways that we can really help them gain their voice and help them come to the path where they can vote and feel excited to vote. And also, there's a great opportunity for people to engage with their elected officials. So we do a lot
Um,
of work around really kind of bridging that gap between the everyday people in government and helping make sure that people get the resources that they need and their community needs as well.
So, there's a lot of other organizations around Houston that seem to be doing what you do, but what makes you different from these other organizations?
Well, we love so many of these other organizations. We say that, the more people that are engaged in civic engagement in all different levels and all different communities, the better. We really want democracy at every corner. So that way people feel like they can go somewhere that they trust and somewhere that they can get information from. And we actually do a lot of collaboration. And one thing that really makes the League of Women Voters stand out is our voters guide. We do a ton of work at the committee level where we have a committee of volunteers and some staff that help develop a really comprehensive voters guide every major election, which means that we go down the ballot and ask every single candidate questions that are relevant to the office that they're running for. And then we put it all together and verbatim, we list all the answers. And then we also have done these really great transformations and growth with our voters guide where we have them in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and simplified Chinese, as well
Um,
as we have a brand new audio version and accessible ebook version that we've done in partnership with the Harris County Public Library, which means that you can download for free on the Libby app our voter's guide, make it whatever font size you need. You can also listen to it with an audiobook if you're on a long commute. And so this comprehensive voter's guide is the only one like this out there because we don't do any endorsements. So that means that we really put the power to people to read what they see and understand and ask questions and find out which candidates really speak to them the most and how they can make their selections and feel like they understand what's going on. We also do explainers on each office. And I feel like I learn something new every election because there's so many different offices running. And so it's a
yeah.
really educational tool and we distribute it countywide.
Yeah, and it's huge because it's so many candidates and, it's really overwhelming for, voters out there to figure out who to vote for because sometimes they don't know any of these candidates and what they stand for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I try and, I have a lot of empathy for, everyone who's voting because it's a really long ballot and sometimes it's better to take it in chunks. I always tell people that it's okay if you don't have a perfect ballot. Like it's really can be a barrier for people if they feel like they have to be an expert in every single place without being able to cast a vote. And really that's not the case. We are all capable community members that deserve a seat at the table. And how you do that is through your vote. And you can
Mhm.
do it in the small pieces where you can learn about an office, learn about the candidates, and then make your selection and move on. Try not to overthink too much and really let yourself get in there and just try it. And then it's like every election, you feel more and more confident and you learn more about what's happening in your community. You recognize names, you may see candidates at forums, and you're just a little bit more engaged every time that you prioritize voting. And then there's other ways that, spill over in civic engagement. And so it's a really great ripple effect to having a
Mhm.
positive impact on your community.
And can we find this voter's guide on your website?
Absolutely. We actually have on our home website, which is lwvhouston.org, we also have a comprehensive standalone website in addition, which is houstonvotersguide.org. So it's very easy to remember, houstonvotersguide.org, and it's really easy to use. You can use it on your phone, your tablet. We update it. It's my wonderful colleague Lauren has already updated for the runoffs coming up and the May elections that a lot of school boards have and a lot of county elections have. And we're improving it every day. We take a lot of feedback from folks, and there's a lot of information on there about whether you're registered to vote, if you need to know what kind of ID you need. It's really kind of a one-stop shop for everyday election and voting questions.
And right now we have plenty of time to look through that guide because I think our next election is May 4th, right?
So we have our non-county elections in May 4th, but we also have the Democrat and Republican primary runoffs. So in the way that the Texas elections are set up is that if a candidate does not win 50% or more of the votes in whatever race they're running for, then it'll go into a runoff. So you may recall in the mayoral election, that is what happened. Whitmire and Sheila Jackson Lee went into a runoff. And so that's a really important thing for Houstonians and Texans to understand because that may mean that you need to vote multiple times for the same office. And that is happening up and down the ballot on both the Republican and Democrat side. So, your Texas has a representatives and a state senate, and they are everybody who handles so many policies for Texas. And those people really matter to your community. And you can make them accountable too by calling them, for voting for them, for volunteering for them. And so that's one thing that, is really important for people to understand. And then so you'll have to look, you have to put in, there's an option on our website where you can type in your address and you find out your ballot and find out if there's a runoff in your area and what the next steps are for them.
Yeah, locally, I mean, we have to go out there as a community and be strong and find the right local people that are gonna really do good for us, right?
Absolutely. And we know that once a representative is elected, they're far more likely to be reelected. And so it's very important that each time you show up, you vote for people who really stand for what you and your community want and what your neighbors need. And can make a really large impact. You can really tell in some areas in Harris County where the voter turnout is quite low. And the margins on those races are in the hundreds or less. And so in these, especially these upcoming elections, a
Mhm.
handful of votes can make a really big impact on who is going to be on the ballot in November.
Well, Katie, we hear all this chatter, good and bad, and that's also overwhelming because it's like, well, is it true or is it not true? Is it an AI thing? What's going on? How can we make the right decision?
It's a really great question. And what I try and tell to my family and my friends is to go deeper in your research. So when you see headlines or you're on social media that, you can always pull up another tab and just do a quick Google search to see if whatever the headline is makes sense or not. There's a lot of really good news outlets out there who are really doing excellent reporting. And really, we are all have the skills to be able to identify something once you kind of let yourself know with that little bit of, critical thinking and that critical eye that you have to really look at news sources themselves versus just headlines. And then you can also find really trusted organizations. Any kind of 501(c)(3) has to be nonpartisan, which means that we really have to work within the realm of not having, endorsing or rejecting any candidates. And so when you find an organization that you trust, I always recommend the league, of course, because, we're all behind it and we know the hard work that we do to make sure that every single thing that we're putting out there is informative, is factual, and is helpful. And again, look at multiple sources. And
Yeah.
just because a study is done or an expert says this way, there's a study for everything, or, you Google something in a certain phrase, and inevitably you're going to get those same results. So you have to really be extra thoughtful about the way you're phrasing things, the way you're searching, because the internet is, adjust based on what you put
Yeah,
in.
sometimes it's not very helpful. I mean, things that you read or things that you hear in the news or special programs that they've got, it's like it could be true, it could not be true, you know? It
Well,
could
we
be
find
just a
that your local library is also a really great resource. They have, so many books, so much knowledge, so many resources. And a lot of it you can get with some free subscriptions through your library card. I was just when I voted this last election, my local librarian was telling me all these great things. Like I could get, certain outlets or certain things for free, which was really neat. And so there's some great options there. And one thing I'll also say is that it's okay to take a break as well. I think that as we're going into this election, and I also just think back to back elections and, kind of COVID recovery and getting back into the swing of things, that allowing ourselves and each other to have some grace and forgiveness and some patience is going to be really important as we're navigating the next handful of months. And that
Mhm.
it's okay to take a break, go outside, go, have a good conversation with a friend or watch a good movie. And it's okay to take a break from the news once in a while too. It'll still be
Mhm.
there.
Yeah. So if we do want to go out there and vote and make that decision, I hope that people do make the decision to go and vote. Where can we go register? And what do we need to register?
It's a really good question. So in Texas, there is no online registration. So you'll often see, especially on social media, where you can fill in a form and you can register to vote online. What's very important is that you have to print out those forms and you have to physically mail them in if you're going to do any online forms that you're doing through social media. The best way is to find what's called a volunteer deputy voter registrar, a VDVR. Lots of league members are BDVRs, a lot of your librarians, a lot of people at your local community center. Baker Ripley is a great resource, and they can actually fill out what's called a long form for your voter registration. And we turn it directly into the tax assessor's office. So you circumvent the post office altogether, goes from person to person. We're legally obligated to turn it in within a couple of days. So that way it's taken care of. You get a receipt. That's the best way. And on the League's website, we have on our event page lots of different places that we are throughout the year. So you can look on there. And then again, but you can go to your local library. A lot of them are, a lot of Baker Ripley's and other community centers. But another way is that you can get a short form in a lot of post offices and some other resources to have a short form that you do have to mail in. We have to just make sure everything is filled out accurately, much as possible, and very legible. So when you mail in a form, you're at the risk of getting and not being entered properly if, you forgot some piece of it or something like that. So the value of having kind of a trained voter registrar is to make sure that you have everything you need. So that way you are all set to go to register. We also have resources on our website where you can check your registration. It's really important that if you haven't voted in a long time, that you check. Another thing is to make sure that if you've moved, to update your voter registration. So all of that can be done on our website, or you can go to texasvotes.gov, and that is the Secretary of State's website, or go to harrisvotes.com, and there's plenty of resources there as well.
Is the form in different languages or just in English?
I think that our form right now is just in English, but I'd have to double check to see if Harris Votes has the form itself in, an alternate language as well.
You also have a really fun event coming up pretty soon, April 25th, and it's your annual Political Pioneers Luncheon, right?
Yes, we are so, so, so excited and honored to have esteemed journalist and just overall incredible person, Judy Woodruff from PBS NewsHour, to be our keynote speaker for our Political Pioneers Luncheon. This is our most important fundraiser for the League. All of the different things that I just kind of outlined that the League does, that your Houston League does, we rely on these kinds of events to really help make sure that we can distribute everything as much as possible and expand our programs as much as possible and reach people where they need us. And so our luncheon is a wonderful opportunity to hear an incredible keynote speaker. She's doing a research project or research program on America called America at a Crossroads. If you haven't seen some of the segments yet, definitely look them up because it is really moving to see and hear the conversations she's having with real voters and real people about the important issues, about ways that we can have positive and respectful dialogue with different opinions. And so we're looking really forward to her program. In addition to our keynote speaker, Miss Woodruff will also have a really special opportunity to honor a longtime volunteer and our Voters Guide committee chair for many years, Jackie Alfred. She has been a legacy member of the league from Houston and from other leagues as well. And the Voters Guide that everybody loves and has used for years and years, she has been a key part in that, leading our committee. And so we are honoring her at our luncheon and recognizing the great work that we're doing to expand our programs, expand our reach. We're so proud of the work that we did in the mayoral election and in this primary election. And so we get a chance to celebrate that, which will be really fun. We'll have this great summary video and an opportunity to just really look back on the great work that we've been doing for a long time. But I think more importantly, look forward. We are really focused on being a place for first time voters to become lifelong voters and make sure that they have every tool that they need along the way. And so any contribution during that time really helps in that way. And we'll be able to expand even more.
Are tickets still available and how can we purchase them?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually just released our individual tickets. And so they are available on our website. It's lwvhouston.org/luncheon, or you can go to our homepage and there's all sorts of ways to get to that page. And tickets are available. If you are a league member, then you get a discount. And so you can check your email and make sure that you have that discount code. And if you become a member, I'm happy to send it to you and make sure you can get that as well. And so we're really looking forward to it.
So, how can we support the League of Women Voters in Houston?
So we really appreciate all sorts of forms of support. One way is to follow our social media. We have an incredible person who has these fun, informative designs and really thoughtful content that you can really learn something from it. So when you're on your phone scrolling, you can actually feel good about it because you to learn a little something about government and about the way things are working in your community. And we have an excellent newsletter as well. And so we really work hard to make sure that every piece of information we're putting out there is helpful, informative. And so subscribing that way is also a really good way to support us. One other piece is that we are a volunteer driven organization. And we cannot do everything that we do without volunteers. So if you're listening and you want to get involved, or maybe you've been involved in the past and want to get reinvigorated, or you just feel like there's something special about us that you want to be a part of, then you can volunteer with us. We have a sign up sheet right now on our website where you can volunteer and you get added to a mailing list, a special email list that will send out opportunities. And then we'll have some exciting different initiatives this year that we need co-chairs for, we need committees for. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get involved in that way. And then, of course, any contribution of any size, when you contribute to an organization like the League of Women Voters Houston, it is going directly into the work we're doing out in the field. We do a lot of printed materials. We go out in the community a lot. We translate as much information as we can. And we use legal authorized translators that are bonded and make sure that they are all a really sound translation for our users. And so all of that, costs money. And so we're able to only be able to do all this work because of the generous contributions of all levels. And so those are just a handful of ways to get involved.
So, how many volunteers do you have now?
Well, we have about, say, close to 250, 300 volunteers at our kind of peak times during the years. Right now, we have this, if you've ever used the platform Mobilize, that is how we handle all of our volunteer events. And we have a sign up to be a volunteer on there. And we've just hit over 100 people who are kind of new volunteers. So that's a really exciting thing for us. And there's a lot of projects that we'll be able to work on this year. We're kind of in this strategic stage right now. So if you have, if you're somebody who really has time and really wants to dedicate to the organization, there's ways where you can get on a committee and we'll put you right to work. And, that's how I got involved. I attended a meeting many years ago, and I was at an annual meeting. I was just a member, and I had volunteered here and there. And then I raised my hand and asked about the financials. And then before you know it, I was on a committee. And then soon enough after that, I became board treasurer. And then we've seen overwhelming growth for the organization. And then I was able to later be selected for the executive director position. And so it all starts with our volunteers.
Yeah, you've definitely made a big difference. But, with the city as large as Houston, 250 volunteers doesn't seem like it's enough.
We can always use more. And I think another fun way to get involved with the league is to collaborate with us. We have a lot of different options when it comes to collaborating. So if you are a business owner or you're in community development within your business, there's great ways for us to get involved. We can
Great.
come and do voting 101 and just give people cheat sheets, the best way to vote, the rules that you need to know, make sure everyone feels, again, that confidence. So that way they're not intimidated when they go in to a polling location. We can work on really great, events in the end. We have something that a lot of us, civic engagement nerds celebrate, which is National Voter Registration Day, which is in September. And then, so that's a really fun if you have a
Yeah.
business or you are, a teacher on a campus and you want to host a registration drive. We do that all day long.
Katie, thank you so much for working with the League of Women Voters. And thank you so much for being here and informing us of so much information that we need to be able to vote for the person that we really think would be the proper person to help us while they're in office.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So before we go, can you give me your website and phone number again, please?
Sure, absolutely. So we have two websites. We have lwvhouston.org. So that's legalwomenvotershouston.org. And then we also have houstonvotersguide.org. And those are the best ways to get our resources. If you go to our contact page on our lwvhouston.org, there's a landing page where you can volunteer with us. You could become a VDVR so you can help people register to vote. You can request a speaker. If you want me or one of our colleagues or your team members to come and speak, in front of a club, in front of your business. And then also you can request our printed materials too. If you have a need and you want to put our voter FYIs in your lobby, we'll send you them free. So there's a lot of great resources there.
Well, Katie, thank you again. And of course, thank you all for joining me for this edition of Spotlight Houston. And if you have any comments, please let me know. Or if you have any story ideas, get in touch.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's Spotlight Houston. A big thank you to Katie Campbell Shumway from the League of Women Voters of Houston for joining us and sharing such valuable insights. Today, we dove deep into how we can all play an active role in our democracy by staying informed and participating in the voting process. Remember, your vote has the power to shape our future. The League of Women Voters of Houston is here to help you make informed choices with their comprehensive voter's guide. Whether you're picking it up in person or checking it out online, this guide is your go-to resource for all things voting. And it doesn't stop there. You can also become part of the League's mission by volunteering or supporting their work. Together, we can ensure that our community and our country's future are in good hands. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, make your voice heard. For more information and to get your voter's guide, visit lwvhouston.org. Thanks for tuning in, and join us next Sunday for another episode of Spotlight Houston. Your city, your stories. And please don't forget to share your thoughts with us on social media or by leaving a rating or a review on your favorite podcasting network. Spotlight Houston is a production of Story Zone Media.